There are moments in life when a person encounters not one, but two loves. And in this delicate paradox of the heart lies the essence of emotional complexity, human longing, and the fragile line between destiny and decision. To Mohabbat is not simply the tale of choosing between two people, it is the story of choosing between two worlds, two versions of yourself, two paths that diverge under the weight of emotion, timing, and circumstances. The first love often comes like a storm, unpredictable, passionate, reckless, and wild. It sweeps you off your feet, showing you what it feels like to burn for someone, to live for their smile, to lose your breath at their touch. This love is innocent in its intensity, pure in its madness, and overwhelming in its grip. It defines your youth, perhaps even your idealism, making you believe in the fairy tales you read growing up. But often, this love is not built to last. It crashes under the weight of reality, falters in the face of responsibility, or fades as life begins to demand more than the thrill of fleeting moments. Yet even when it ends, it never leaves you completely. It carves its name on your soul like a scar that doesn't hurt anymore, but always itches when it rains. Then comes the second love, not necessarily more powerful, but perhaps more profound. It doesn't arrive with fireworks, but with calmness. It doesn't rush you, it roots you. This love may come later in life, often after you've been broken, healed, and reshaped. It teaches you that love is not just about losing yourself in someone, but finding yourself beside them. It's the love that grows with time, that understands flaws, that respects silence, that embraces scars. If the first love is poetry, the second is prose, solid, meaningful, dependable. And when you look back at both, you realize that each love serves a purpose. The first teaches you how deep your heart can go. The second teaches you how steady it can stay. But not everyone is lucky enough to experience both. Some spend their lives holding on to the memory of the first, never opening the door to the second. Others meet their second love first, only to be haunted later by the what if of a passionate past they never knew. And then there are those who stand at the crossroads, torn between the fire of the past and the warmth of the present, between the echo of what once was and the promise of what could be. To Mohabbat is about this tug of war. It's not just a love story, it's a story of identity, memory, loss, growth, regret, and hope. Sometimes your first love returns when you're already with your second, and suddenly the years disappear, the feelings return, and the question arises, which love is real? The one that shaped you or the one that saved you? Is love defined by how intensely it is felt or by how long it endures? Can you love two people at once, in different ways, without betraying either? Society is quick to judge, but the heart knows no rules. It just feels. And feeling isn't a crime, it's a sign of life. The duality of love reflects the duality of the human soul. We are not linear, we are layered, and so is love. Some say the first love is practice and the second is real. But perhaps both are real in their own time, and time is what defines everything. Love at 20 is not the same as love at 35. The words may be the same. I miss you. I need you. I love you, but their weight changes with each passing year, with each heartbreak, with each reunion. To Mohabbat also explores the idea that sometimes love isn't about who you want more, but who you hurt less. Because in choosing one, you often break the other, and sometimes you break yourself in the process. This story also echoes in the silence of married hearts that still beat for someone they left behind, or in the letters never sent, in the phone numbers never deleted, in the old songs that still bring tears. The first love lingers in memory, the second settles in presence. One is a haunting melody, the other a comforting hum. One makes you ache, the other makes you whole. And yet, we are drawn to both. Like the moon and the sun, they light different parts of our lives, But what if you lose both? What if Tu Mohabbat becomes a story of two losses, one that slipped through your fingers and one that faded in your hands? Then love becomes a ghost, not of people, but of versions of yourself you can never reclaim. And that is perhaps the most painful love of all, the one where you are not missing them, but the you that you were with them. Yet still, we love, because love is not a destination. It's a journey, a winding road that passes through passion, pain, peace, and sometimes through more than one heart. In every person who has loved deeply, there are fingerprints of multiple. Love's not all romantic, not all happy, but all transformative. Tu Mohabbat could be about two people, or two eras, or even two versions of love within the same relationship. Sometimes you fall in love with the same person twice, once when you meet them and once when you understand them. The first love may be magnetic, the second mature. The first is about longing, the second about belonging. And if you are truly lucky, you find both in one person, at different times, in different ways. But for most, life is not so kind. And that's why poets write, singers sing, and lonely hearts listen to make sense of these two loves that never quite leave us alone. Tu Mohabbat is not a triangle, it's a mirror. It reflects who we were, who we are, and who we could be had love tilted slightly the other way. It reminds us that love is not always fair, not always timely, and not always enough. But it is always real. And maybe that's the most important truth of all, because even if the love didn't last, the feeling did. Even if the person changed, the memory didn't. And even if the heart moved on, a peace stayed behind. Tu Mohabbat. Is that peace quiet, unclaimed, eternal? Yet what makes Tu Mohabbat such a haunting concept is not just the presence of two loves, but the absences they create. Every decision in love is an echo chamber of what-ifs. What if I had waited longer for the first love to mature? What if I had been brave enough to walk away from the comfort of the second? These questions never really die, they simply quieten over time, buried beneath the layers of responsibility, routine, and the soft guilt of choosing happiness that someone else could not be a part of. The truth is, the heart is not designed to forget. It merely reorganizes its attachments. The first love might no longer be in your life, but it might still live in your favorite book, in a particular city skyline, in the way you hesitate before saying goodbye. The second love, even in its stability, might occasionally see you drift into silence, your eyes not fully present, your smile distant as if you've time-traveled for a moment to a version of yourself who once burned brighter, laughed louder, cried harder. That's the burden and beauty of having loved deeply more than once. It stretches your emotional capacity, but it also divides it. And this division isn't always balanced. Sometimes the one you are with feels your absence even in your presence, because a part of you still belongs to a moment, a memory, or a person that existed before them. And it's not betrayal, it's the residue of being human. For some, Tu Mohabbat feels like a gift, a rare privilege to have experienced love in more than one hue, to have danced both in the rain of passion and the shelter of companionship. For others, it is a curse, an emotional tug-of-war that leaves you feeling incomplete, like a puzzle with two pieces that almost fit but never really do. You try to merge them in your mind, to pretend they are one continuous experience, but the contrast is too loud to ignore. One taught you how to lose, the other how to rebuild, but neither teaches you how to forget. And perhaps that's why stories about love triangles, unspoken pasts, and unresolved feelings resonate so deeply. They mirror the internal lives we dare not speak aloud. Society often forces us to pick one narrative. You either move on or you don't. You either love fully or you don't love at all. But the truth, as always, is messier. Sometimes you move forward with someone while still carrying the emotional fingerprints of another. Sometimes you love fully in the present while mourning what could have been. And sometimes, without meaning to, you compare not because one is better, but because they are so painfully different. The warmth of one makes you miss the fire of the other. The steadiness of one reminds you of the chaos that once made you feel alive. And in that comparison lies both guilt and clarity. You realize love doesn't ask permission to stay, it lingers, in silence, in scent, in dreams. And even when you choose one love, the ghost of the other lives in the pauses of your conversations, in the music you don't skip, in the messages you never send. To Mohabbat is not about infidelity of body, it's about the loyalty of emotion, about hearts that stretch across time, space, and reason. Some people think love is supposed to complete you, but those who've loved twice know better. Love doesn't complete you, it reveals you. The first love shows you who you are when you are fearless. The second shows you who you are when you are wise. And sometimes, when you sit with both truths, you realize how much you've changed, and yet how much you remain the same. Your eyes might have new stories, but they still look for old shadows. Your voice may speak new promises, but carries the cadence of old confessions. And your hands may now hold someone else, but they haven't forgotten the way another hand once fit like a secret. The idea of To Mohabbat is also a meditation on fate. Were both loves destined, or was one simply timely while the other was timeless? Could it be that the universe gives us what we need, not what we want? And in doing so, does it save us or does it deny us? Philosophers say love is never wasted, even if it ends. But try telling that to someone who wakes up beside one love while dreaming of another. Try explaining that to someone who loved with their entire soul only to see it fall apart, then had to gather the shattered pieces and offer them to someone new hoping they wouldn't notice the cracks. Because second love often requires more courage than the first. It demands that you trust again, believe again, give again, even when the first love left you with reasons not to. And that bravery is what makes second love beautiful. It's not built on fantasy, it's built on choice. On knowing the risks and still saying yes. On understanding that hearts can break and still beat. That scars can ache and still be kissed. That memories can hurt and still be respected. And in that choice lies a depth that the first love never had to earn. Because the first love was about discovery. The second is about decision. And sometimes that decision becomes your anchor. Even as your mind drifts, your soul stays grounded. Even as nostalgia whispers, commitment speaks louder. And in that balance, you find peace not perfect, not pure but real. To Mohabbat is a reminder that love isn't a single chapter. It's a book with many beginnings, some endings, and often unresolved middles. It's a symphony with multiple movements, each with its own tempo, its own mood, its own meaning. To have loved twice is to have lived twice. To have lost and found yourself more than once. To have seen your reflection in more than one pair of eyes, and to have recognized a different version of yourself in each. And maybe that's the most important journey of all. Not the journey to find someone else, but the journey to meet yourself again and again, through the people you've loved, through the pain you've survived, through the moments you thought would break you, but instead built you. So if you carry two loves in your heart, don't be ashamed. Don't think you are broken. You are simply layered, complex, human. You are proof that the heart is not a container with limits, but a garden with seasons. Some flowers bloom once and die. Others return every spring. And some, if you're lucky, bloom twice. To Mohabbat is the story of such hearts, not divided but expanded, not confused but full, not lost but layered with memories that echo through every quiet evening, every shared smile, every tear that falls for no apparent reason. It is the story of loving, losing, healing, and still believing. And that, in the end, is what makes it so achingly, beautifully human. And so, in the end, the story of Tu Mohabbat finds its quiet closure not in grand declarations or dramatic choices, but in a simple, silent morning when Aryan, now older, calmer and wiser, sat by a window watching the sun rise over city that had witnessed both his loves. He held a warm cup of tea in one hand, while the other rested gently on a photo album he had not opened in years. It was his anniversary today, 15 years with Anya, the woman who had walked into his life when he had nearly given up on love, the second Mohabbat who had taught him how to rebuild a home with bricks left behind by a storm. She was still, asleep in the bedroom, peaceful, unaware of the old flame flickering gently in the corner of Aryan's mind. Years ago, there had been someone else, Meher, the wild, unpredictable, intoxicating first love. The one who made poetry out of heartbreak, the one who disappeared too soon, leaving behind 1,000 unsent messages and one lingering question. What if? Life had offered Aryan both a fire and a flame. And while the fire had once warmed him with passion, it was the flame that stayed, quietly lighting the corners of his days without burning him. He had chosen peace, chosen commitment, chosen the love that came after pain. And yet, he had never stopped loving Meher, not in the same way, not as a desire, but as a feeling buried in time, untouched, undisturbed, like a letter sealed forever. On that morning, as he flipped through the old pages, he found a photo of her young, smiling, free. His eyes welled up not from regret, but from gratitude, because he had loved, twice, deeply, differently, and both had made him the man he was. Anya walked in just then, kissed him on the forehead, and sat beside him, resting her head on his shoulder. She looked at the picture and said softly, "I know you still think of her sometimes. It's okay, because you chose me. Every day. And that means more than any past." Aryan didn't respond right away. He just held her hand a little tighter. In that moment, he understood what Tu Mohabbat really meant. It wasn't about betrayal, confusion, or unfinished business. It was about how the heart grows, stretches, evolves. How it can carry love like layers, never erasing, only adding. One love had taught him how to feel, the other how to stay. And between those two, he had found a life not perfect, but full, complete. The story didn't end with a choice between two people. It ended with one man embracing both versions of love, honoring the first, living the second. In silence, in gratitude, in grace. Because sometimes love isn't about who you end up with, but what each love gave you before it let you go or before you chose to hold on.